All right, Lisa, we're live. You're good to begin.
This meeting will now come to order. As part of the continued efforts to prevent the spread of novel coronavirus, COVID-19, this meeting is being conducted by video teleconference. We welcome those of you joining us via the meeting portal and hope that everyone is safe and healthy. I will now ask board member Mrs. Jackie Mayfield to read the Education Professional Standards Board mission statement. Ms. Mayfield.
Good morning. The Education Professional Standards Board, in full collaboration and cooperation with its education partners, promotes high levels of student achievement by establishing and enforcing rigorous professional standards for preparation, certification, and responsible and ethical behavior of all professional educators in Kentucky. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayfield. On December 11th, Executive Order 2020-1033 was filed to set the terms of service for the EPSB members and replace Executive Order 2020-702. The new executive order retained the membership of the EPSB, but will require all members to be sworn in. Waiver committee members, Mrs. Conley-Salyers, Dr. Powers, and Mr. Trosper were sworn in by Leah Sharp at this morning's waiver committee meeting. At this time, Leah Sharp will administer the oath to the other members present today. Ms. Sharp, thank you for joining us.
Good morning. I will read the oath in its entirety and have you raise your hand during that, and then do a roll call at the end and ask for you to swear or affirm. I do solemnly swear or affirm, as the case may be, that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky so long as I continue a citizen thereof, and that I will faithfully execute, to the best of my ability, the office of Board Member of the Education Professional Standards Board according to law, and I do further solemnly swear or affirm that since the adoption of the present Constitution, I, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with the deadly weapons within this state nor out of it, nor have I sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have I acted as second in carrying a challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offending, so help me God. Eli Edwards,
Affirmed.
Amanda Ellis,
Affirmed.
Sarah Green, Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, I affirm.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, I affirm.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, I affirm.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, I affirm.
Chair Rudinsky,
Lisa Rudzinski, I affirm.
Stephen Scribner,
Stephen Scribner, I affirm.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, I affirm.
Carmen Souter, Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, I affirm.
Thank you.
Sharon Chesser joins us today as Board Secretary. Ms. Chesser, thank you for joining us. Will you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, present.
Mary Pat Regan, Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, present.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, present.
Sarah Green, Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, present.
Donna Hedgepath, Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, present.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, present.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, present.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, present.
Lisa Rudzinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, present.
Stephen Scribner,
Stephen Scribner, present.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, present.
Carmen Souter, Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, present.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, present.
we have quorum.
Thank you. We will now move to the consent items. The following items are listed on the agenda as consent items. Letter A, approval of the October 12, 2020 at EPSB meeting minutes. Letter B, request to offer program at an off-site location, Campbellsville University. Letter C, 16 KAR 5:040, alternative student teaching placement request for Melinda Massey. Letter D, 16 KAR 5:040, alternative student teaching placement request for Jessamine Rising. And letter E, emergency non-certified personnel program. Does anyone wish to remove any of the items from the consent calendar for further discussion? Having received no request to remove items from the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve consent items A through E?
Elijah Edwards, motion.
Stephen Scrivener, second.
Mr. Edwards, can you please state what your motion is?
Sorry, Elijah Edwards, motion to approve consent items A through E.
Stephen
Thanks.
Scrivener, second to that motion.
Thank you. Having received, the motion before the board is to approve consent items A through E. As this meeting is being conducted via video teleconference, we will have a roll call vote for each vote. Ms. Chesser will call the roll. I would like to remind each board member to please state their name, pause for a moment, and then state their vote. Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, yes.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudinsky, yes.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes.
Julian Vasquez Holly,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes.
voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion carries. Today, Commissioner of Education and Chief Learner, Dr. Jason Glass, joined us as Executive Secretary to the EPSB. I will now recognize Dr. Glass to provide his report. Dr. Glass, welcome.
Thank you, Chair Rudzinski and members of the committee. I apologize that I won't be having my video on. I am driving. I've pulled over to deliver this update. I have a few quick things just to make you aware of. One, we have an exciting day today all across the country, but also here in the Commonwealth as vaccines are being distributed to frontline healthcare workers. That will closely then be followed by residents of residential care facilities. Here in Kentucky, as you may know, the governor and Dr. Stack have worked to make educators fall in group right immediately after healthcare workers and those in care facilities. So group 1B after group 1A. So that's exciting. We're not quite sure at what point or what time we would see those vaccines actually being delivered to educators, but we know that that elevated priority will make them sooner than later in that process. In fact, they have arrived in the state and are being disseminated today is a very positive sign. It's the beginning of the end of this terrible experience that we've all been going through for the past several months. So that is exciting, and a return to normal in terms of education experiences on the horizon for our schools, our teachers, families, and students. Second item to update you on, the governor's office and Department of Public Health and the Kentucky Department of Education have been working on a configuration around a return to learning following January 4th. As you're aware, the governor closed schools to in-person learning with the exception of elementary schools in counties that are not in the red, which practically handful of communities in the state that have been able to return to in-person learning, but that executive order will expire in January 4th. And so the governor and Department of Public Health and KDE have been working on a configuration on what that looks like. The governor will announce the parameters of that later this afternoon at his regular press conference. And then on Tuesday, KDE will be hosting a superintendent webinar to go into more detail on what that looks like. We understand that there is an urgency if there are going to be any configuration changes to make those known to our practitioners and education leaders in the state so they can begin working toward executing those. So look for more information from the governor's office later this afternoon at their press conference, and then even more greater detail later this week on return to learning after January 4th. The final item that I'll update you on is we also have coming up in this legislative session, or in January, a return to the legislative session. A lot of the work at this session will be focused on budget matters and managing what was initially thought to be a fairly catastrophic budget in terms of losses due to tax receipt losses after a COVID-induced recession. However, we continue to get better news and more encouraging information that we're recovering from that, or our economy has managed through that better than expected. Still, not without its challenges, but better than expected. And there is still a possibility of some kind of federal support or intervention to help alleviate state budget concerns as well. So while we don't know the final numbers, we do expect this next legislative session to be heavily focused on funding and trying to get a stabilized budget passed. It includes funding for education across the state and the SEEK funding formula. That is KDE and my number one legislative priority, is to ensure that we have provided our schools the resources that they need to deliver the important work that's ahead of them. One of the challenges, of course, that schools have is that we should expect students to have greater needs after this pandemic period than they did before. And so we're going to have to think about how we can provide more resources to our schools so that they can catch students up and provide those supports that students have been missing out on in this disruptive period. Other major policy priorities for KDE in this legislative session, we are seeking funding to activate all of the components of the Kentucky Academy for Equity in Teaching, or KATE Academy. It's a multi-program umbrella that includes a number of efforts to increase the number of minority teacher candidates, to get them working in the field and to keep them in teaching. So that's part of a larger effort around equity and anti-racism that we're focused on at KDE, but we are seeking additional resources to activate a program that really already is on the books but has not been funded to a level that it has had much of a material impact. So we'll be working on that. And then the final major priority at the Kentucky Department of Education that we'll take into the legislative session is a focus on a revised and modernized funding formula for the Kentucky School for the Deaf and the Kentucky School for the Blind. These two agencies are entirely dependent upon the state legislature for funding. The funding that the legislature has provided them for a number of years going back has not kept up with their expenses. Their salaries are hitched by statute to the pay levels in the Jefferson County system, but the revenues have not increased at the pace of the Jefferson County system. And so what has ended up happening is that KDE has been incrementally shifting money from its budget over in to cover and stabilize KDE or KSB and KSD for the past several years. And we've really reached a point now, as KDE's budget has been reduced and eliminated, that we're at a breaking point. We simply cannot transfer funds from KDE over to cover these two schools any longer without it materially impacting the operations of the department. So something has got to be different in terms of how KSD and KSB are funded. So we have as a priority stabilizing and providing those two schools with the resources they need, also considering considering that their students will have significant needs and challenges emerging from this pandemic as well. So those are the 3 items I wanted to update the board on. Thank you for the time. I will turn things over to Amanda Ellis, who is serving as proxy for President Thompson on this group. And I will foreshadow Amanda's remarks or Dr. Ellis's remarks by saying that KDE, speaking on behalf of KDE and myself and the State Board of Education, we're excited to take part in the Commonwealth Continuum, which is a P20 effort to try and increase the numbers of students who are entering in and receiving credentials or degrees from higher education institutions, both as a quality of life and a workforce development effort. But I will let Dr. Ellis speak more on that, as I know that she's excited to do so. So I'll stop there and turn things over to Dr. Ellis.
Good morning, and thank you, Commissioner Glass. You were exactly right. First thing I was going to mention, and thrilled that you did as well, as Commissioner Glass shared with you, we had the press conference, I think a week or so ago. My days run together in this interesting times, but thrilled that we have joined forces together to really start looking at the entire education continuum. We've discussed it, and our board, the CPE Council, and the KBE have been incredibly supportive. If you weren't able to see the press conference, Governor Beshear kicked it off with just his vision on improving education for all Kentuckians. President Thompson and Commissioner Glass spoke, as well as Lieutenant Governor, and have committed to really having a P20 council type. But as Commissioner Glass said, we can't do it all at once. So we're really focusing in initially on middle high school and improving and increasing access and awareness to post-secondary options for students and really strengthening those transitional points into post-secondary. We want students to pursue credentials and degrees to help better their lives, exactly as Commissioner Glass had said. And so membership will be announced, but we'll be having breakout groups and work groups to help get this work accomplished, and for the continuum to make recommendations and be supportive of the changes that need to happen to continuously improve our education system for Kentuckians, our youngest citizens. And so we're very excited about this. The initial first meeting will take place towards the end of January before session really kicks off. And so we're hoping to announce the final membership this week or next, and then begin the work in January. So we're extremely excited and really encouraged by the collaboration and the energy around these efforts. The other thing I want to share with you just briefly is that last week we did host the training for the new members, the university board members and regents. Governor Beshear and President Thompson kicked that off, and we had a great meeting that afternoon with all the new board members. At the beginning of December, we did have the performance funding work group. They met for the last time to make recommendations to the General Assembly, and that detailed report will be released and public during legislative session to make recommendations around the performance funding piece. Also, if you haven't heard on Spotify or your social media, if you haven't heard it, I'll be shocked. But CPE is working with KCTCS on the campaign to promote work-ready Kentucky scholarships to adults. Radio and digital media ads began running actually November 9th and were paid for by KCTCS, and we had an adult promise grant from the Lumina Foundation. And so those efforts have been really saturating social media and radio spots and TV ads, and so we're really hopeful to increase and spur the interest of adult learners, many of those who have not completed or have not considered themselves as possible prospective students. So we're really hoping that this helps to encourage that. Also, November, U of L and CPE co-hosted the annual Higher Equity Symposium, which was held virtually. The theme was the urgency for now in OW, which stood for no opportunity wasted. This featured speakers including U of L President Neely Bendapudi, Tia Brown, McNair Brown of the Association of American Colleges and Universities, and of course, Dr. Thompson. We had over 300 individuals registered, varying attendance through both days and great feedback. And so we're really encouraged, folks sharing and tuning in and really trying to learn and reflect and move forward. And so we're really encouraged by these efforts. A lot going on to prepare for the session, as Commissioner Glass spoke of. Really focusing on the budget and knowing that it's a short session. We intend for it to be probably very intense and active, but we're encouraged moving forward. And as Commissioner Glass said, ready to start seeing the end of this pandemic. As you can imagine, all the universities are preparing for second semester, and they really, as school districts have done an incredible job of really navigating through uncharted waters and doing what's best for students. And really, it's been quite impressive with the efforts made to take care of students and do the best you can when things change all the time. So we are extremely grateful, and the CPE will meet again at the end of January. And so I will wrap up my comments there, and I think turn it back to you, Commissioner Glass. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. And I think now we turn things over to Associate Commissioner Rob Akers.
Hey, good morning. It's good to be with you. Thank you, Dr. Glass, for the opportunity to share. And Dr. Ellis, good to hear from you and always good to see you. Thanks for being with us today, members of the board. It's good to see you. And I hope that the end of this difficult semester is drawing to an end and that you're looking forward to some time away from the screen and from video conferencing. Since our last meeting, the Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness has continued its work in support of the EPSB and all of its partners. A great deal of the focus of the work has been on collecting feedback and working to finalize revisions of 16 KAR 5010. That's that beast of a regulation that took up about a quarter of your agenda that you may have looked through. This regulation is one of the EPSB's most impactful regulations, as it sets the standards for how our educator preparation providers are accredited and how the programs are approved. It's been an arduous task working to get this regulation right. You will consider some additional recommendations as we move closer to a second reading in the future. Related to 5010, we have Dr. Mark Lassell Peterson. He's the Chief Executive Officer for the Association for Advancing Quality in Educator Preparation, also known as AQUEP, since we always speak in acronyms here with you. He will be here with you to present some information regarding his organization and its desire to seek authorization to accredit ed prep providers in Kentucky in the coming months. Since the beginning of the pandemic, the EPSB has worked closely with its partners to provide needed relief for ed prep providers and for our local school districts. As we've progressed through these unprecedented times, OELE has presented potential waivers for consideration to the board, and we will continue to listen to our partners as they uncover new challenges that may require action from the board. You will be considering two waivers today, one for our ed prep providers regarding admissions and one for our school districts to help alleviate some of the staffing pressure of the substitute teaching shortage. Dr. Glass and I have been serving, and Dr. Ellis as well, been serving on the Pritchard Committee's Education Preparation Task Force. This task force is comprised of the Commissioner, the President, and CPE, legislators led by Representatives Tipton and Senator West, deans from our EPPs, and district level leaders and teachers. And its charge has been to make recommendations regarding changes to how pre-service teachers and in-service teachers are prepared and trained in the science of reading and numeracy instruction and strategies. Those recommendations will be made to the Education Committee when the General Assembly convenes early next year. I'm very excited to share that our request for proposal for a cloud-based educator certification preparation and educator ethics system is moving forward. We have been through the virtually in-person presentations and demonstrations, and we are narrowing down and looking like we're going to be taking our next steps in the coming weeks. This is finally moving from pipe dream to reality, and I think is going to be a huge win for the EPSB, OELE, and KDE as we're going to take so many of the in-house developed applications that have been managed by EPSB, OELE, and Office of Education Technology staff, trying to manage roughly 65-ish homegrown applications. And to their credit, these applications were developed when there really wasn't a market for any of this. And so, in fact, the EPSB was really probably way ahead of many of its state partners in doing and coming up with these platforms. But they've gotten to the point that now that we have the resources of OET, we want to move to a cloud-based system. Believe it or not, the Kentucky Department of Education is the largest cloud-based computing entity in Kentucky, and is apparently even larger than most Fortune 500 companies so it's all in with the cloud, and we've really tried to move to a more streamlined approach of having outside vendors develop and support the products, so that then we can just work on working with our partners to help ensure that they're getting what they need from the product. So we're very excited about that. We are probably going to be unveiling different parts of the platform in phases. Our first priority will definitely be around automating more of the educator certification process, with having completed over 40,000 renewals and initial certifications, with 6 people working with just uploaded documents. This is going to be a real boon to our districts who are often scrambling to get teachers certified, and to our teacher candidates who are usually sweating it out as they're trying to get jobs and are waiting for the documentation to come through. As we continue to move through this process, I will keep you up to date, and very, very pleased and proud of the work we've done there. I would be remiss if I didn't give some shout outs to staff who have spent all kinds of time away from their primary duties to do this. First, Division Director Todd Davis for being the one who had to accept this challenge to get this RFP started, and has kept it moving for well over a year, even when it seemed like things had come to a standstill. Crystal Horde, Margaret Hawkinsmith, Scott Smith, Allison Bell, Leah Sharp, and Chelsea Young. And then to Steve Roark from OET and his staff of tech experts this is a monster project. No other state will have a project like this because we are bringing so many applications into one platform. So if you can tell, I'm a little proud of the work of our folks for what they've been doing. And I think this is really going to be a good thing in the future. Moving on, OELE works with our EPPs to implement some requirements under Senate Bill 1 from 2009. EPPs are required to stay up to date to changes in academic standards so that the students that they are preparing are ready to hit the classroom to teach content that is aligned to Kentucky academic standards. This year, the OELE partnered with the Office of Teaching and Learning in the department and with Dr. Ellis over at CPE to make sure that we had learning modules put together for our college faculty, the ones who are training our pre-service teachers, so that they were up to date on all of the changes that we have around the Kentucky academic standards. So with those modules that were produced, we receive survey results from our EPPs, and in your report, you should have seen that we saw a range from about 82% to 100%, depending on the institution, of their faculty have participated and completed the training in those modules. So we would just encourage those who aren't at 100% yet to continue to work with their staff. I know that many of our, especially our larger EPPs, have huge amounts of adjunct professors that are probably pretty tough to wrangle because they're not on campus. And we appreciate all their efforts and ask them to just continue to try to make sure that we get as close to 100 as we can on that, because as you know, teachers, it if you're trained on one set of standards and you go in ready to teach on those and you find out you've got a completely different set, that can be quite a challenge, especially when you're a new teacher and maybe haven't developed all those skills around curriculum development. Let's see, I have just, I think, one more thing. As a point of pride, would like to just piggyback on Dr. Glass's comments about the CATE, the Kentucky Academy for Equity in Teaching. I was going to have a presentation for you all today on that, but we've got a couple other action items that I think we need to probably focus on, so we'll do that in February. But that initiative, at least the work for it and the direct supervision of it, rests in the Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness and is run under the guidance of Dr. Meredith Brewer. And so in OELE, as I've shared before, probably as you all were really drinking from the fire hose earlier on, is that OELE has the entire teacher pipeline in it, from the recruitment of teachers, the teaching and learning pathway, from the diversity initiatives, from educator prep to certification to educator development. It's a really cool space to be in, to have all of that in one office. And this is a program that was launched roughly a year ago and has gained just a huge amount of substance to it. And in our work with the Lieutenant Governor's office, Lieutenant Governor has shared this proposal with the Black Caucus. We've had it vetted through several of our partners. I feel like what we've done is taken a very holistic approach to this. Included in that is equity and bias training, unconscious implicit bias training. We partnered with CPE on this as well. They've been very close partners in developing this program. So I'm going to be very excited to share that with you in February when we can spend a little more time on it and show you just the whole range of how this really draws the work of OELE and KDE together. With that, I believe that gets me to the end of my report. I'm happy to take any questions or receive any feedback that you may have at this time. And if you don't, Commissioner and Madam Chair, I appreciate the opportunity to provide this update.
Thank you, Associate Commissioner Akers. Chair Rosinski, that concludes the updates from Dr. Ellis, from Rob and myself. So we'll turn things back over to you. And I have another appointment pushing up on me, so I'll drop off as well. Thanks, everyone, for all that you do. And if I don't get a chance to see you, happy holidays.
Thank you, Dr. Glass.
Thank you, Commissioner Glass, Dr. Ellis, and Associate Commissioner Akers. Happy holidays to you as well, Commissioner. Next, we will move to remarks or report from the chair. I have two items. First of all, if you have not heard, Fayette County Public Schools Superintendent Dr. Emmanuel Koch died suddenly about a week ago, Friday, about 10 days ago, after a brief illness. Dr. Koch, I'm a Fayette County school teacher, and I believe we have one other Fayette County employee on the board. Dr. Koch was an amazing educator and proponent for all students to achieve, but was also very, very supportive of the staff. And so I just ask that EPSB members keep our district, his family, and our students especially in your thoughts as we navigate the time ahead. Secondly, EPSB, the chair or designee, has been asked to serve on the Council on Post-Secondary Education's Commonwealth Education Continuum. The first meeting is scheduled for January, and I plan to attend that first meeting, but then I may, after I hear what all is going to be tasked with the EPSB on that committee, I may task a member or ask a member or members if they're interested in serving as my designee. That would be awesome. So I will keep you updated on that as well. And that is all I have from the chair. Next, we have two information items. Information items are presented to the board for review and discussion only. We will begin with information item A, presented by Associate Commissioner Akers.
Well, good morning again. You're probably going to see me a little bit more than you're used to and probably would like to, but I'm glad to be with you to share several of these items under information and action today. One of the major responsibilities of the EPSB is the approval of educator prep providers to operate in Kentucky. As you've been reviewing 16 KAR 5010 and have been wading through all of the revisions, you can see that that accreditation is heavily regulated. The regulation addresses the ability of providers to gain national accreditation. At present, the Council for the Accreditation of Educator Preparation, or CAPE as it is known, is the only nationally accrediting entity approved to operate in Kentucky. In its revision, 5010 expands the board's ability to consider and approve multiple accreditors. And as you continue to review 5010, we have invited Dr. Mark Peterson, who is the CEO of AQUEP, to provide information to you as they seek to become an approved accreditor in Kentucky. And so, Mark, I'm going to hand off to you. If you're able to share your screen, do so. If not, I will be glad to assist.
Good morning, everyone.
You're good.
Are we good? All right. That's a really
excellent.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. And if I'm doubly lucky, this will actually start presentation mode. There we go. Let me just ask, since I'm not sure, I hope you're seeing the actual presentation and not the preview.
We got you. You're good.
Fantastic. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present some information about AQUEP, the Association for Advancing Quality in Educator Preparation. I've organized some slides around just a few main points here, and then hopefully have some time for any questions you might have. I thought I'd start out with this question. Where does accreditation come from? Of course, like most of you, I grew up hoping I would grow up to be an accreditor. It's hard when you can't see people, because that was a laugh line. But involvement in accreditation is actually been very interesting and very important part of my professional life, and many of you have been involved in accreditation in various ways as well. AQUEP, we like to think of as sort of the next generation in quality assurance. It was designed in 2017 by professionals. You can see a little characterization of them there. We worked together by Zoom, so we were in some way ready for this type of technology that we're all using now in our work. We put together 3 different working groups to create this agency. One to focus on standards and evidence. That's a central concern, of course, of accreditation. One to focus on process, and we set some goals for ourselves there to see if we could maximize the collaboration and mutual learning that happened, which should be an outcome of a peer review-based quality assurance process, which is what accreditation is. But sometimes we need to work at it to make it work the best it can. And also to assure consistency. Because if you don't have consistent outcomes and good calibration, you can't really get the work done very well. So we did put together this new agency a little over 3 years ago now, with some core values, and I'll just mention those here briefly. One, we wanted to design a system that would promote collaboration and promote sharing of results. Accreditation is one of those activities that when you're engaged in it at your local school, at your local college, local university, you learn a lot from doing the self-study. And the people who come to visit as the site visitors learn a lot, but we wanted to the extent that we could, expand that learning as much as we could. We also wanted to ensure a focus on improvement and innovation. Accreditation traditionally focuses on 2 things. One is quality assurance, and the other is innovation and improvement, and that's been getting a lot more focused lately in the policy conversation. We also, because of the field we're in, educator preparation, wanted to be sure we designed a system that would facilitate partnership between the providers, that is the colleges and universities that prepare teachers and other educators, and the state authorities. As a person grounded in higher education and in practice in educator preparation, it's only to everyone's benefit when everyone's on the same page and collaborating together in this important work. 4th bullet point, we tried to make sure we built in recognition of the importance of local context, and I'll come to that a little bit later in the presentation, say a few more words about it. But inherent in accreditation is this tension between establishing expectations that are widely shared by a profession and recognizing that depending on which county in Kentucky or which state or which county anywhere one is working in. The local context is a little bit different, and one has to be sensitive and responsive to that in order to accomplish the larger goals of the profession. The last three bullets I won't comment on any further, except to say that we're very aware of the need to provide good service as we go through this work. So just to wrap up the background portion, here's the vision and the mission of AQUIP. We're after preparing excellent and effective teachers through innovative preparation and to serve all students and all communities well. Well, that's what we set out to do, and here's where we are today. Just to let you know that AQUIP today has 135 members across 23 states. 21 of those members are accredited, and those are indicated by the stars you see. Perhaps a more important, well, an equally important thing is, as you know, the landscape of educator preparation has changed over the past couple of decades as we've sought to increase access to this very important profession for folks who think about it when they start college, but also for folks who decide they want to go into it after they've tried something else, right? It creates a rich, diverse profession. And so we're very happy that we've got quite a mix of providers already, those initial, advanced, traditional, alternative, basically every kind of institution that engages in preparation has joined on. Share this one with you, not for the details, but just to let you know that we've got a great diversity of representation and great interest from across the field, all different types of providers in coming on board with us. Accreditation itself has its watchdog agencies, and one of those is the Council for Higher Education Accreditation. That's what CHIA stands for. Apologize for not spelling that out here. And we are in the process of moving through that. They've accepted our application. We had a very positive report from Observer, a very cordial meeting with the Committee on Recognition. Now they have some internal processes that go on. So for those of you who have been aware of this, for some of you that this might be a new set of information. For those of you who've been watching it, just want to update you that we're moving ahead quite expeditiously there with great prospects. Well, in order to give you an overview, and I will say, please don't hesitate to speak up with questions. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see the tiles right now that have everyone's faces in it, so I can't gauge if you have a question. But please don't hesitate to bring up a point or to ask a question if you like. I'm going to shift now into the second point, just talking about expectations, because standards are, as we've already been discussing this morning, a very important part of everything that we do in education. And rather than go through the standards, I'm going to share a little bit of the conceptual framework here, and then give you one example from one of the standards, and then move on and talk about our process and the other points of the outline. But AQUIP has 4 standards. They are about 2 things. They are about completer performance, and they are about program practices. And within that, we break it out into 2 rows here. The top row represents the foundational expectations, which are pretty much the same everywhere, if you think about it that way. The bottom row represents the contextual challenges, the thing that says, well, but each location has to be approached in its own way to make things work out. So I'll give you just a little walkthrough of an example, starting up here in the first quadrant. The standards for candidate and completer performance say that program completers have to be ready to perform as professional educators with the capacity to support success for all learners in the field for which they were prepared. So if you think about a secondary math teacher, high school math teacher, for example, there has to be strong evidence that the candidate has the mathematical knowledge that they need, that they have the pedagogical knowledge in mathematics that they need, that they're able to manage the classroom and learning environment well, a number of other things which we'll see in a minute. And correspondingly, over here in the program practice column, well, that means the provider has to show that it's got the right folks to teach the content, that it's got the right folks to teach the methods, that they are up to date on the standards. Was delighted to hear about the efforts to ensure that in Kentucky. And so that's a little flavor of the top row. At the same time, we know that candidates need to be, moving down to the bottom row, prepared to work in particular contexts and to dig in with particular communities. And so the standards ask for evidence around that as well, and their ability to continue growing as populations change, as standards change. So we ask, well, what's the evidence from completers that they're able to do these things and to continue to teach effectively and to grow in the profession and stay in the profession? And what that means is, moving over here to the last quadrant, we have a standard about program engagement and system improvement. Again, this is the contextual challenge standard. You can think of these bottom row standards as the ones, they're bottom row but not bottom shelf, because they actually are the high aspirations of the field to dig into the tough problems, to work with local partners. And so you can see the summary of that standard is that the program has to have practices that strengthen the P20 education system in light of local needs and in keeping with their particular mission. So not to go into too much detail, I will say, by the way, that I think in the materials you received our guide to accreditation, which has a great deal more detail about the standards themselves and other aspects of the system. And we invite you at any time to go to our website, which is aaqep.org, where you'll find some additional information as well. But just to flesh out this little brief overview of the standards, here's Standard 1, program and completers perform as professional educators and can support success for all learners. Well, the architecture of it is, and it's the same under each of them, there are 6 different aspects, and this gives you a little thumbnail of what those aspects are. And then, and again, full description is in the guide. And we have evidence requirements that says you have to have multiple sources of evidence. You have to have the perspectives of the program faculty, P12 partners, completers themselves, and employers. In other words, a well-rounded body of evidence that includes direct measures of performance in order to meet that standard. So to conclude on the standards, accreditation from AQUIP really means an evidence-based affirmation of 4 things, and those 4 statements reflect what the 4 standards are. And I won't read those to you, and I know you've got them in your materials as well. So standards are one part of accreditation, but of course it gets enacted in a process, and that process, as we've developed it, we believe assures quality, fosters collaboration, and does support innovation and improvement. So just to talk a minute about process, there's really nothing new in the core of the activities in the sense that self-study is the heart of the work and peer review is the means by which that's checked out. Accreditation decisions are made by an independent set of commissioners. The provider and the state representatives are present at the meeting. We try to make it as transparent as we possibly can. We just had a wonderful decision meeting on Friday. So I should have updated that slide, by the way. We now have 2 additional accredited providers just since Friday. Full accreditations for 7 years, but of course, within the decisions, one can identify problems that need to be resolved, larger ones or smaller ones, and there's process for dealing with that as well. But in addition, we think there's some real benefits that can come out of the process. And so as institutions are going through the accreditation process, we have a system designed by folks in the field that puts all members into cohorts. That's a group of 10 to 12 institutions that may have a like institutional mission, may have a like geographical context, may have a like timeline that they're on. So we give folks the opportunity to group together in a variety of different ways. Those cohorts meet once a month online. It's a totally optional thing, but it's through a Zoom meeting with a consistent staff member so that we keep communication going and keep that going. We also do, as an agency, provide services to our members in the form of professional development. We've got a series of online workshops that walk through various stages of the quality assurance process. Very helpful because, as you probably know, different folks will come and go in terms of the accreditation effort, depending on the size of the institution, as people cycle through roles and share responsibilities. We want to be sure we're there to support folks, and we've had great pickup on all of those, and a series of webinars we do as well. Each institution, just moving down how we make this a supportive process here, each institution does have a staff liaison, so someone to communicate with and to get answers from right away in a quick way. We also developed, as a part of this, sorry to be rushing through it so much, happy to come back to any of it, a proposal process which is a little bit unique among accreditors in the sense that again, the working group that put it together, folks from the field thinking about what would be supportive, developed a process where 2 to 3 years before a site visit, when there's still time to adjust the work that's going on, institutions can submit a proposal. Again, it's an optional process because that ensures a little bit more buy-in on it. And those proposals have been very helpful to our members to help them think ahead, plan ahead, and get a start on it, and also get the feedback from their peers and to learn some things. So through all of that, we support innovation and with some flexibility there. I'll now just make a couple of sort of substantive comments to dig in on some of the issues that one faces in accreditation. As I mentioned earlier, there's always a tension between the shared expectations and the particularities of what goes on. We believe that can be a really productive tension, though. And here are some of the ways that we've done that. We set up as the common expectations, so this is what's common, that all programs do engage with local partners, not only for placements, but also for the evaluation of their program. The accreditation cases must include data from local employers as part of the evidence, and we also have a standard that says there has to be engagement in the local community, in the local P20 community, to promote equitable outcomes. That's a different process in different places, and so it has to be done in a way that's contextually sensitive, but by having it as a common expectation, we feel we can do that. The review process itself requires that the team engage with many of those stakeholders. Each team, by the way, a little different take on things, must include a local educator as a full member of the review team so that the teams are aware of what the local dynamics are. And we do also have available a partnership agreement where we can make the reviews fit the particular state. In particular, Oregon and a couple other states have really engaged with us on that to customize the work a little bit. And the last point that I want to just dwell on here for a moment, in keeping with the time and in keeping with the work that we're all doing, we believe that by supporting improvement and innovation through a quality assurance process, we can actually support access, equity, and diversity. I titled this, From Barriers to Bridges. We know what some of the barriers are to equitable preparation of a diverse teaching core, and the practices we engage in through accreditation can be a part of that. For one, standards can be set up to prevent roadblocks instead of a welcome at the point of entry. So in other words, limiting access. We know that another challenge for many candidates is the opportunity cost related to the end of the practice. And so opportunity cost rather than support really affects the feasibility. We try to design this accreditation system so that it supports the best efforts we know how to make in both of these areas. In relation to access, one thing that was built into these standards and built in purposefully is that we focus on outcomes. The system focuses on outcomes, in other words, performance at the end of the program, rather than on inputs, namely tests. So AQUIP is not an agency that requires particular tests or determines particular scores or metrics at the beginning. We've instead encouraged our members to engage with empirical admissions processes, to monitor and support their candidates. These are requirements and these have to be documented in the study, and to link those up to performance at the end and to cycle around and bring the improvements so that candidates are supported through to successful completion. And we're just delighted by the work that many of our members are doing, by the way that they're documenting that and by the way that we're able to share some of these practices to make them more widely available to each other. That second barrier, the opportunity cost at the end with the culminating clinical placement, we've found that by encouraging the engagement with local partners to address needs, to address outcome disparities, to address workforce diversity issues, has actually resulted in some great local work, and I'm just delighted to hear of the wider statewide work going on in Kentucky to address these issues. So there's a benefit there, and I would just add that AQUIP does engage. We're keeping in touch with many of the national efforts that are supporting access and feasibility, encouraging local innovation. We try to be an agency that shares information all the way along. And finally, just within the standards, in order to prepare everyone to teach all learners well, the standards do emphasize these points: culturally responsive and sustaining instructional practice, making sure that you differentiate instruction based on evidence of student learning. So this is something that's in Standard 1. The ability to support learning of English learners is one thing that's called out, as is engagement with communities, families, and caregivers. In a couple of different ways, as you can see. There's also the program requirements to engage with partners in support of high-need schools and attention to local workforce needs to support diverse educator workforce. We value highly the work with state boards, and I'll be ready to stop sharing the screen in just a moment so we can see each other for discussion. But I do just want to point out that we value the work with state boards such as EPSB very highly. We have standards boards and NASDAQ represented on our board. We also have created, at the request of folks in the field, a monthly Zoom call so that folks working in this area across different states can get together. We've got about 14 states participating in this monthly call just to inform each other, to keep us informed so that we can be responsive to what's happening in the states. And in our 3 years, we've concluded the 7 formal agreements that you see there, with some others still in the pipeline, and continue to explore ways to work together well with our colleagues, both at institutions and at state boards. So thank you for your attention. And with that, I will seek to stop sharing if I can. And I believe I did. So thank you very much. Any questions or discussion?
Hi, this is Rob Hoppin, and Mark, thank you for that presentation. Just as a little context, especially for our K-12 folks, the accreditation world at higher ed is a very different animal, as I learned when I moved out of the public schools and into my role here. I would just ask if maybe Dr. Powers or Dr. Vasquez-Heilig could share any insight to why potentially considering additional flexibility in accreditors or anything that you think supports that conversation. If you wouldn't mind speaking up just for the sake of our new members, I'd appreciate that.
Julian, do you want to say anything first?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Please go ahead.
Well, I've been to some of the information meetings and trainings that AQUEP has provided, and I think they've been very sensitive to feedback they've received from EPPs, and certainly is, I think, Mark, this is going through the CHIA approval process, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And from what I've read, I don't anticipate issues unless you're aware of some that just haven't been in some of the materials that have been provided. But it's certainly, I think, a very good alternative for EPPs, and I think has really tried to be sensitive to some of the concerns that EPPs have had about other accrediting bodies at the national level.
So the word in our parts is that faculty seem to be interested and excited about this process. I think the fact that we're in the midst of a 100-year pandemic has been challenging, and we're just trying to sometimes find grace where we can. We understand that the effects of this pandemic could reverberate for some time. We just appreciate the grace as we're working towards this, but faculty seem to think that this is more ideal than some of the other situations in the state in past years.
And one thing I'll add to what Julian shared is that especially some of the smaller EPPs private colleges and universities in the state and across the nation really find this particular accrediting body much more sensitive to their context and to just working with them in ways that are helpful. So,
thank you all for sharing some for the board members. And just from a, I guess, a philosophical approach, OELE and our support of the EPSB and all of its partners have been pushing to try to provide the most flexibility and local control for our partners so that they can have the opportunity to make the decisions they think best fit their institution. When I came on a couple of years ago, AQUEP had not really started the momentum that it's collected. So there was really only one game in town. As we've continued to work forward, we want to offer a state-only accreditation process, but we also, for our universities and ed prep providers who want to be nationally accredited, if there are appropriate alternatives, we're advocating that the board consider allowing them to choose from any national accreditors that you think meet the standards of what an accredited institution in Kentucky should look like. And so the idea today was to get Dr. LaSalle Peterson in front of you to share some of his, a very quick overview of his program and kind of give an update where they are as we are continuing to have our discussions around 5010.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So as we go forward with all of this information that we have today, what does the board need to be keeping in our minds as we're reviewing everything and then we're looking at the KAR just to approve? I mean, I know this is discussion today, but for me, it would be helpful to know as I consider everything, what in context of the board's role this is.
So Cassie, do you want to take that more?
Yes, so this is helping to set the stage for those discussions that you're having around 16 KAR 5010, and just letting you know what else is out there, because you do see the standards from CAPE included in there, and the fact that this board has already approved CAPE for accreditation. But as you are making those considerations around expanding the ability for national accreditors, for there to be more than one national accreditor for our EPPs to pursue, this is an example of what those other accreditors are. So we're just letting the board know what's out there so that you can make a more informed decision when deciding if you want to expand that ability for multiple national accreditors.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, that's one of the reasons why in the new revised language for 5010, it just simply says an EPSB approved accreditor versus the original one that's out of date that reference NCAPE, that is now a defunct entity. So we've tried to make the language a little more evergreen and provide greater flexibility for the board as well.
Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification. Does anyone else have any questions about information item A? Okay, hearing none. Dr. LaSalle Peterson, thank you so much for joining us today. And Associate Commissioner Akers, thank you very much for that detailed overview. Now we'll move on to information item B, 16 KAR, Standards for Admission to Educator Preparation Amendment. And I believe we have Ms. Bell from KDE joining us. Ms. Bell?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Information item B identifies proposed amendments to the regulation for admission to educator preparation programs. 16 KAR 5020 outlines the minimum requirements for admission to an educator preparation program. Section 1 specifically identifies the case assessment scores required for admission to undergraduate and graduate level initial teacher preparation programs. Graduate level programs currently have the option to require either the CASE or the GRE as a general assessment of basic knowledge. Both undergraduate and graduate level programs require a minimum 2.75 out of a 4.0 GPA or a 3.0 on the last 30 hours completed. At the last board meeting, the Kentucky Association of Colleges of Teacher Education made recommendations for changes to this regulation. Based upon the board's discussion of these recommendations and in an attempt to provide flexibility for the admission assessments relating to demonstration of general knowledge in math, reading, and writing achievement, the following changes are being presented as amendments to 16 KAR 5020. First, allow initial undergraduate programs to accept ACT scores of reading of 20, writing score of 18, and a math score of 22, or the CASE assessments with the current scores identified in the regulation. Secondly, allow for a prospective candidate who has a minimum GPA of 3.0 on a 4.0 scale to allow for some flexibility in the CASE scores. It would allow admittance of a prospective candidate who is within 5 points of one or more of the minimum scores on the assessment. And 3, the amendment removes the testing requirement for initial graduate level preparation programs as the applicants have received a bachelor's degree from a regionally accredited institution of higher education. At this time, do you have any questions over the proposed amendments? If there are none, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bell. Now we'll move on to action items. These are items that are presented to the board for action and will require a motion and a vote. Action item A will also be presented by Ms. Bell.
Actually, Madam Chair, I'm going to step in on this one for her.
Okay.
We had some developments at the end of last week around this regulation. We had planned to bring 16 KAR 5010 to you for a second reading, but we are asking today that the board defer action until the February meeting. The standards in which we recommend adopting for state-only accreditation are in the final phases of revision. As these new CAPE standards, the ones that we are recommending to be adopted, were just recently approved by their board. Our staff requests the time between now and the February meeting to review the standards, ensure that none of the revisions provide any major issues or implications for approving this regulation. We recommend not simply sticking with the current CAPE standards in their current form, as the new standards are much more explicit in its expectations of the EPPs in their focus on equity and diversity and inclusion. Diversity is currently a cross-cutting theme in those in the present standards, but the new standards have very clear expectations in those areas. In addition, we believe that the revised standards more closely align with the mission and vision of the EPSB, the recent resolution on race and equity made by the Kentucky Board of Education, and CACTI's ongoing work to recruit and develop a more diverse and representative teaching force.
Thank you. Since this item is on the agenda for action, I will need a motion. And I believe that KDE has requested that we defer, but it's up to the board. So is there a motion of any kind?
Justin Mitchell, I make a motion to defer 16 KAR 5010 standards for accreditation of educator preparation providers and approval of programs to defer that.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll make a second. This is Amanda Ellis.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. So the motion is to defer consideration of this amendment. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Elijah Edwards, Elijah. Okay, I'll go with Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes.
Lisa Brzezinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, yes.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes.
Elijah Edwards, voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion carries. Next, we have action item B, Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperative, Continuing Education Option Plan 2 proposal. And I believe we have Ms. Salzman here to present.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
As she said, action item B is the Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperative, which we call KVEC, their Continuing Education Option Plan 2 proposal. This will be similar to the ones you all saw back in October. The KVEC CEO Plan 2 program would allow educators to pursue and achieve a rank 1 or 2, depending on their current rank, and grow in their profession through field-based experience, research, and approved professional development. KVEC's proposed program meets the CEO Plan 2 guidelines and includes an introduction, a capstone project, job-embedded professional development experiences, assessment of candidates, and program evaluation. If approved by the EPSB, KVEC may offer the program to candidates to obtain rank 1 or rank 2. So we are here seeking your approval.
Thank you. Again, I will need a motion. Okay, I'm not sure if anyone is speaking and they may be muted.
Melissa Conley Salyers, I make a motion to approve.
Okay, to approve KVEC CEO Plan 2 proposal?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is made to approve KVEC CEO Plan 2 proposal. Is there a second?
Stephen Scrivener, I'll second the motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Scrivener, for that second. Is there any discussion? The motion before the board is to approve KVEC's CEO Plan 2 proposal. Hearing no discussion, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, yes.
Stephen Scribner,
Stephen Scribner, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes.
Jillian Vasquez Holly,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes.
voting is complete.
Thank you. And the motion passes. We will move on to action item C, also presented by Associate Commissioner Akers.
All right. Well, last spring, the EPSB took action to provide relief to students who were unable to take admissions assessments for candidates who are unable, and for candidates who are unable to take certification exams due to the shutdowns of testing centers. At the time, there were no online options for assessment, and the EPSB did not want to disadvantage any student or candidate due to completely unforeseen circumstances. The waiver was due to expire at the end of this month, and any student who had not successfully completed the admissions assessment was to be exited from their program. As we've approached this deadline, we have been asked by the Kentucky Association for Colleges of Teacher Education, CACTE, to present a request to extend the timeline for conditional admittance through the end of April. There are students who have struggled to test due to health issues. Yes.
I believe you are presenting on action item D at the moment. Action item C is the request to allow substitute teaching experience to qualify as student teaching experience.
Sure enough, am. Thanks. Sorry, I got my notes out of order. Well, you're going to get to hear that
Finish up D, and then we can go back to C, since you've already started talking about it.
Yes, we can proceed with D.
Okay.
Oh.
Then we'll go back and get.
Thanks for saving me on that one, Chair. And so the KACTE has made a request to extend the timeline. Some of the issues that have been encountered by students deal with health issues, technology access, and some incidents of scheduling exam times with third-party proctor vendors, and then there were some who had timeline issues with receiving testing accommodations. While we recognize that a blanket waiver will enable some students who have not planned well or who have not passed the test, even though they've tried to take it on previous attempts, the ability to remain in the programs, we believe that our EPPs are operating in good faith and have made this request because they believe they can provide the necessary support to get their students successfully admitted by the end of April.
Thank you. So the action question is, should the EPSB continue the approval of the conditional admittance policy for applicants who are unable to take the admission assessments? Is there a motion?
Justin Mitchell.
Jacqueline Mayfield, I approve. I move to approve action item D. Approval of admittance.
Okay, so the motion is that you you make the motion to approve conditional admittance to educator preparation programs for spring semester 2021.
Correct.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Justin Mitchell, second.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. The motion before the board is action item D, for the record, to make the motion to approve conditional admittance to educator preparation programs for spring 2021. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll on action item D.
Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Amanda Ellis,
Sorry, Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, excuse me, Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, yes.
Stephen Scribner,
Stephen Scribner, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes.
Voting is complete.
And the motion passes. So we'll dip back now to action item C. Action item C is 16 KAR 5:040, request to allow substitute teaching experience to qualify as student teaching experience for the spring 2021 term. And Associate Commissioner Akers.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. And this is a bit of a different type of waiver request. This is definitely under the category of a COVID emergency request. As many of you are aware, COVID has created major challenges for local school districts and their ability to fully staff their buildings. In some cases, high numbers of quarantined teaching staff have required schools and/or districts to pivot to NTI because there are not enough educators to staff classrooms. In working with our local districts and superintendents from around the state, and with the encouragement of the Senate Majority leadership, as you saw in the letter included in your agenda book, we come to you to ask that you waive the requirements of 16 KAR 5040 and allow student teachers the ability to substitute teach and receive payment for it and accumulate required field hours for this spring, and this spring only. As teachers on this board can probably attest, the substitute teaching workforce is to a large part comprised of retired educators. The COVID-19 disease is especially tough on folks who are of retirement age and as a result are at risk. We are aware that retirees are avoiding in-person substitute teaching in an effort to remain healthy. As districts will be returning to in-person learning, there will be continued need for substitutes, and based on the exceptional circumstances, we request the board grant this waiver to help provide a relief to our local school districts so that they can have greater flexibility in staffing their classrooms.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So what type of background, I'm learning about educator preparedness programs, but what kind of background do the student teachers already have, and have they met that would be consistent with what we would do for an emergency certified substitute?
Probably above and beyond, especially for the and if you look at under the consent agenda where you approve the emergency non-certified, those are basically candidates who have a high school diploma. So with this, you have people who have reached the end of their clinical settings. They're in their last semester. They've had all their, or at least they should have had all of their content and coursework. And so they should still be in the midst of their student teaching. We do not advocate for this being you get to miss student teaching, because you still have to have a supervising teacher. You would still have to receive the emergency sub-cert to be able to conduct those types of substitute activities. So they have at least or more what you have with your emergency cert. Of subs, not otherwise. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Rob, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. Is there trying to think of how to word this, a stipulation that it's a long-term subbing situation, or because I know a lot of times, you'll have substitutes who are in different positions every day of the week. How can we kind of make sure that there's consistency there? I know you said that there would be a cooperating teacher. I just wanted to make sure that, that we were consistent.
Well, under this proposal, it would really be up to the district and the EPP on this. As you look through, there's kind of a pecking order or a protocol for assigning long-term subs, from having to pick someone who has a certificate, and then you look at lesser degrees of qualifications or certifications as you get to that. And so an emergency certified sub should not be the first choice for a long-term sub anyway. How many days a student teacher could sub, I think, needs to be at the discretion and cooperation between a district and an EPP. We understand that this recommendation is unorthodox, but we have seen it from at least one neighboring state, and as you can tell, there's been a call to help provide any additional staffing that we can to our school districts this year.
Rob, I have a question. Sherry Powers.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any expectation of the EPP to provide any supervision of one of our student teaching candidates that would be subbing?
No, I don't think so, because the only thing that we're asking is that you would allow any day that they, or at least some number of days that they may student teach to count for, substitute teach to count as student teaching days.
Okay. And that would be decided between the district and the EPP?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I have a question on this also. Will the university still be getting paid? Like, I know when we did our student teaching, you're still a student, so you're still paying for a semester of college. Will the university still be getting, I guess, tuition from the student who's doing a long-term sub or subbing in these districts?
They would. They would pay their tuition, because even as they are, that would just be a different component basically of their clinical placement, and they actually would be allowed to collect and pay for that, but they would still be under the supervision of a university overall as they're completing their program.
But the districts would be paying them, because when you do your student teaching, typically you're not getting paid.
Right.
So it's almost, but I kind of see it as our districts who are already struggling for money are the only ones not getting money, from this. We're paying out, the university's getting money, but our school systems wouldn't be.
No, they're not paying the university.
No, I'm saying the student is paying the university. So the university's getting money. The district, we're paying for the sub who's getting to do their student teaching. So, it's kind of like the district should be getting something, because you typically don't pay student teachers.
No, but I think you have to look at what your options are. You have districts who are going into closure because they don't have enough subs to fill the pipeline. It's not a requirement that districts do this. This is just an option for districts who would choose to do it. We were asked by superintendents as well, and they're the ones who are in charge of executing the budgets and are aware of what they are. They have to put aside money for substitutes anyway, and so they just we're supporting it because of the partners who asked for it.
If they're not getting supported during this by the universities, why would the universities still be getting paid? If they're not going to be observed and the things that you would typically have during your student teaching.
They will still get that. They just may not get it in the substitute setting.
Okay.
And that's why it's up to the university and or the EPPs in the district to figure out how many days a candidate may be able to sub.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Rob,
Mr. Justin.
Quick, it's more of a request. So I think that this is a good solution for this unique problem that we are facing right now. And again, it is just temporary. It's just for the spring of 2021, so it's not long term. But I do think that this just goes back to us maybe as a board encouraging KDE to request that going back to fully funding KTIP as a priority is important and needed, especially if students are coming out, maybe not getting the same kind of experience. So just, I know that's a sort of a different action item, but just a request that that we do look at that in maybe this next budget cycle from the legislator. Thanks.
Thank you. Looks like Kathy Gunn has a question.
I do, and he almost addressed it because I was alternatively certified, so I apologize. I don't know how many semesters a typical student teacher has to complete. So I guess my question is, could theoretically a student teacher do substitute teaching the entire spring semester and then come out a certified teacher, and then there's no KTIP, so they're just kind of teaching without really getting that in-classroom support? So I guess that was my question is are we putting restraints in place to make sure that doesn't happen?
That's a good question. That is something we're going to leave up to the individual ed prep providers and the districts to determine how many days they can do that. So if a student teacher is required to have 70 days, assuming that there are 70 in-person days or some combination that they can complete, as you know, you have waivers from first semester that are being requested for candidates who couldn't even get their full days in. So with that being said, a district may, or I'm sorry, an EPP and a district together may say up to X percent of their days or some hard number between 1 and 70. I don't think it's in anybody's best interest to say, here, you just long-term sub for the rest of the semester, and we're going to cut you loose after that. I think that it could, in certain circumstances, with the judge, between the judgment of an EPP and a district, if they see some sort of a unique situation where it could apply, where they agree to provide X supports and services while some sort of an exceptional circumstance has a student teacher doing that, that there might be some version of that, but certainly not wholesale. Does that answer your question effectively? Great. Josh, Mr. Trosper's your hand up.
Yes, sir. I guess I was looking at this kind of backwards. So you would have a student teacher that has their placement, and then if they're called to sub, that would count towards their days, or that's what I guess I was thinking about it from the perspective that this person would be hired as a full-time sub, and then they would be assigned. So I'm looking at it backwards. So they would have their assignment, but if they're called to a different school to sub, that would count toward their time.
Correct.
That alleviates a lot of my confusion.
Good. Madam Chair?
So my follow-up question is, will they only be subbing in their content area, or could they sub in any capacity?
They could sub in any capacity, just like any other sub.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Good discussion. I appreciate the questions.
Are there any other questions? Okay, so we're on action item C, hearing no other questions. Yes?
I'll take it down. I'm sorry, my delay was there. I just wanted, as someone who was an alt-cert person as well, the experience that I got while doing clinical hours under a supervising teacher, and then also substituting at the same time, I understand that that's a little different than this situation, but the classroom management experience I got while substituting was absolutely invaluable. And so I'm glad that we are considering this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Amber Snell, motion to approve 16 KR 540, request to allow substitute teaching experience to qualify as student teaching experience for the spring of 2021 term.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Snell. Is there a second?
Second, Amanda Ellis.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. So the motion before the board, is there any discussion? The motion before the board is to approve the conditional waiver to allow substitute teaching experience to qualify as student teaching experience for the spring 2021 term only. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Melissa Conley Salyers.
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Amanda Ellis.
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn.
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt.
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield.
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell.
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers.
Sherry Powers, yes.
Lisa Rosinski.
Lisa Rodzinski, yes.
Stephen Scribner.
Stephen Scribner, yes.
Amber Snell.
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper.
Josh Trosper, yes.
Jillian Vasquez Holly.
Jillian Vasquez Holly, yes.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And action item C motion carries. That completes action items. Associate Commissioner Akers, thank you very much. We will now move on to waivers. The board is now ready to review our waiver requests. KRS 161.028 subsection 1R provides that the board has the authority to waive its administrative regulations when a request is submitted by an applicant for certification, a post-secondary institution, or a superintendent of a local school district. When requesting a waiver, the requesting party must submit to the board a written request along with appropriate justification for the waiver. EPSB staff reviewed the waivers with the EPSB's waiver committee during an open meeting immediately prior to this meeting, and the waiver committee formulated recommendations. Kathy Jackson and Crystal Horde will present the waiver requests to the full board, and the waiver committee will present their recommendations for final action, starting with waiver A, presented by Kathy Jackson. Ms. Jackson?
Good morning.
Good morning.
16 KAR 5040, Section 5 provides that each educator preparation provider provide a full professional semester to include a period of student teaching for a minimum of 70 days or its equivalent in instructional settings that correspond to the grade level and content area for student teacher certification. Due to district closures, many student teachers have not been able to meet this 70-day requirement. So there are 10 universities that have requested a waiver for a portion of the days. Those universities or EPPs are Alice Lloyd College, Asbury University, Campbellsville University, Eastern Kentucky University, Georgetown College, Kentucky State University, Morehead State University, Murray State University, Northern Kentucky University, and the University of the Cumberlands. Thank you.
Thank you. So the action question is, should the Education Professional Standards Board approve the waiver of student teaching days due to district closings? Is there a motion?
Chair, I think you will have the recommendation presented from your waiver committee as well.
Thank you very much. Who will be speaking on behalf of the waiver committee?
Josh Trusper is going to speak to waiver A and B. Lisa.
Thank you. Vice Chair Trusper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Give me just a moment and I'll pull my notes up here.
Thank you.
Okay, on waiver A, request to waive required number of student teaching days due to district closures. The waiver committee met this morning to review the waiver requests and supporting documentation. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waivers. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board approve the waiver requests.
Thank you for the recommendation from the waiver. Thank you for the recommendation from the waiver committee. Now this item is on the agenda for action and I will need a motion.
Josh Trosper, I make a motion.
Okay, is your motion to approve the waiver?
Yes, my motion is to approve the waiver to request to waive required number of student teaching days due to district closures.
Thank you. We have a motion from Vice Chair Trosper. Is there a second?
Amber Snell.
I heard Ms. Snell.
Yes.
Second?
Yes.
The motion before the board is to approve the waiver of required number of student teaching days due to district closures. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, recuse myself.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, yes.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes.
Julian Vasquez Holly.
I have a question. Is this a question where I need to recuse?
UK is not included in this waiver request, but on the second one.
Okay, second one. Okay. Julian Vasquez Heilig, I vote yes.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and that motion carries. Next, we have waiver B, 16 KAR 5:040, request to waive field experience clock hours due to district closures, and I believe we have Ms. Jackson.
Yes. As she stated, 16 KAR 5040, Section 2 states that prior to admission to student teaching, each student teacher candidate must complete a minimum of 200 clock hours of field experiences in a variety of settings. Due to district closures from COVID-19, it's made it impossible for some of them to complete this. 13 universities or EPPs have submitted a request to waive a portion of the hours. Those institutions are Alice Lloyd College, Asbury University, Berea College, Eastern Kentucky University, Georgetown College, Kentucky State University, Kentucky Wesleyan College, Murray State University, Northern Kentucky University, Transylvania University, Union College, University of the Cumberlands, and the University of Kentucky.
Thank you. Waiver Committee, I believe Vice Chair Trosper, you'll be speaking about Waiver B as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Waiver Committee met this morning to review the waiver requests and supporting documentation for a request to waive field experience clock hours due to district closures. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waivers. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board approve the waiver requests.
Thank you. Do I have a motion on Waiver B?
Justin Mitchell, I make a motion to approve 16 KAR 5040, request to waive field experience clock hours due to district closures.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Is there a second?
Jacqueline Mayfield, I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayfield. The motion before the board is to approve the waiver request of field experience clock hours due to district closures. Waiver B, is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, recuse myself.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, yes.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes.
Julie Vasquez Heilig,
This is the one that I'm asking for recusal, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
all members have voted.
And the motion passes. Moving on to waiver C, 16 KAR 2:120, request to waive emergency certificate requirements for Scott County schools. And I believe we have Miss Crystal Horde.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Waiver C is a request from Scott County Schools. 16 KAR 2120 requires for emergency certification that an individual must have a minimum of a bachelor's degree and meet minimum GPA requirements, either a 2.5 cumulative or a 3.0 on the last 60 hours of coursework completed. The applicant in question did not meet that minimum requirement. However, Scott County Schools is making this request due to unsuccessful attempts at obtaining qualified applicants to fill a middle school special education position. The individual is currently taking coursework and is working towards admission to an Option 6 program.
Thank you. Is someone speaking on behalf of the waiver committee?
Yes, Sherry Powers. The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request and supporting documentation submitted by Scott County Schools. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board grant the waiver.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. At this time, I need a motion.
Justin Mitchell, I make a motion to approve 16 KAR 2120, request to waive emergency certification requirements for Scott County Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Is there a second?
Amber Snell, second.
Thank you, Ms. Snell. With the second, the motion before the board is to approve waiver C, request to waive emergency certificate requirements for Scott County Schools. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, yes.
Stephen Scribner,
Stephen Scribner, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes.
All members have voted.
Thank you. The motion passes. Next, we will move on to waiver D, 16 KAR 2:120, request to waive emergency certificate requirements for Christian County Schools. Ms. Horde?
Yes, thank you. So this is the same waiver. In this case, Christian County Schools is requesting a waiver of 16 KAR 2120 to waive the minimum GPA requirement for an emergency certified teacher. This teacher in question also did not meet the minimum GPA requirement on the bachelor's degree or the last 60 hours. However, the applicant is enrolled in coursework beginning in spring 2021 to raise the GPA enough to be admitted to an Option 6 program. Christian County Schools has attempted to hire a qualified teacher at Hopkinsville High School in the area of special education and has been unsuccessful in doing so. Therefore, the district is requesting this waiver.
Thank you. Dr. Powers, the waiver committee report.
The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request and supporting documentation submitted by Christian County Schools. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board grant the waiver.
Thank you. The action question is, should the Education Professional Standards Board approve the request that the grade point average requirements of 16 KAR 2:120 be waived for issuance of an emergency certification? Do I have a motion?
Josh Trosper, I move to approve the request to waive emergency certificate requirements for Christian County Schools.
Thank you, Vice Chair Trosper. Do I have a second?
Amber Snell.
Jacqueline Mayfield, I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayfield. With the second, the motion before the board is to approve the waiver of emergency certificate, to approve the request to waive emergency certificate requirements for Christian County Schools. It is waiver D. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, yes.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes.
Julian Vasquez Holly.
Julian Vasquez Holly, yes.
All members have voted.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Next, we will move to alternative route to certification applications. We have 3 of those today. These applicants are pursuing the option 1, exceptional work experience route to certification. This is one of the alternative routes established by the legislature in KRS 161.048. An applicant with exceptional work experience must have an offer of employment from a local school district, a bachelor's or graduate degree meeting minimum GPA requirements, and an academic major or a passing score on the academic content assessment in the area in which certification is being sought. The board will need to determine if the applicant's work experience constitutes exceptional work experience. The applications will be presented by Ms. Hord. Ms. Hord?
Thank you, Board Chair. The first application is requested by Jefferson County Public Schools on behalf of teacher applicant Hannah Wemmett. The district is requesting certification in the area of theater for grades K through 12. Ms. Wemmett does hold, and I'm pulling up my information here too. She does meet the requirements of the statute. She has over 13 years of experience in the theater and the performing arts, including acting and directing. She does have a bachelor's degree in the major of theater, so therefore there was no praxis content assessment required. All requirements were met under the statute, and that is all.
Thank you. So the action question before the board is, should the Education Professional Standards Board approve the alternative route to certification application? I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the alternative route to certification for letter A for Ms. Hannah Wemmett for theater.
Thank you. Dr. Ellis made the motion. Do I have a second?
Amber Snell, second.
Mr. Miller, you have a...
Thank you. A motion and a second. The motion before the board is to approve the application for the alternative route to certification for Hannah Wemmett. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, yes.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes.
Julian Vasquez Holly.
Julian Vasquez Holly, yes.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. The motion passes on application A. Next, we have application B. Ms. Ward?
Thank you. Application B is brought by Davis County Public Schools on behalf of Kamar Wilmington Ritchie. Davis County Schools is requesting certification in the area of 8 through 12 biology. Mr. Wilmington Ritchie has over 5 years of experience in a counseling and therapy setting or in clinical settings. He does have a bachelor's degree in biology, a master's degree in public health, and a medical doctorate degree from out of country. While he does meet the minimum requirements under the statute, the board has the authority to review and approve this application.
Thank you. The action question is, should the Education Professional Standards Board approve the alternative route to certification application B, Kamar Wilmington Ritchie? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the alternative route to certification for letter B, Mr. Kamar Wilmington Ritchie for certification in biology.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis, for the motion. Do I have a second?
Stephen Scribner, I'll make a second.
Mr. Scribner with a second. The motion before the board is to approve the application to the alternative route to certification for Kamar Wilmington Ritchie, application B. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, yes.
Stephen Scribner,
Stephen Scribner, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And the motion on application B passes. Last, we have application C. Ms. Horde.
Thank you. Our final application through the option 1 route today is brought by Christian County Schools on behalf of Miss Jessica Wimsatt. Miss Wimsatt has a bachelor's degree in journalism as well as a master's degree in journalism. She has over 5 years of experience in the field of journalism. The district is requesting certification in the area of English, which journalism is a subset content area that English teachers are able to teach. Since her degree was not in English, but in journalism, she was required to pass the Praxis 2 content assessment, which she has, and she meets all of the requirements under the statute, and that is all.
Thank you. The action question is, should the Education Professional Standards Board approve the alternative route to certification for application C, Jessica Wimsatt? I do need a motion.
Justin Mitchell, I make a motion to approve the alternative route to certification application for Jessica Wimsatt for English and journalism.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Do I have a second?
Jacqueline Mayfield, second.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayfield. The motion before the board is to approve the alternative route to certification for Jessica Wimsatt, application C. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, yes.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And that motion passes as well. That completes the alternative routes to certification. Next, I will now open the floor to any board member for board comments. Does anyone have anything they wish to share? Okay, at this time, I believe we are ready to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810, subsection 1C and J, to conduct a character and fitness review and to review potential actions relating to complaints and reports. The board will also review pending litigation. So at this time, I will need a motion to go into closed session.
Sherry Powers, I make a motion to go into closed session.
Dr. Powers with the motion. Do I have a second?
Jacqueline Mayfield, I second.
Mrs. Mayfield with the second. The motion now before the board is to go into closed session. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Melissa Conley Salyers,
Melissa Conley Salyers, yes.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Kathy Gunn,
Kathy Gunn, yes.
Tracy Hunt,
Tracy Hunt, yes.
Jacqueline Mayfield,
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes.
Justin Mitchell,
Justin Mitchell, yes.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, yes.
Stephen Scrivener,
Stephen Scrivener, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, yes.
Josh Trosper,
Josh Trosper, yes.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, yes.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion carries. We are now ready to move into closed session. We will take a 10-minute break. By my clock, I have 11:16 Eastern Time, and I ask that all members return by 11:26 Eastern Standard Time.